Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for making time. All right. Even if you cannot stay for the next complete 2 hours, we totally understand. It's Friday evening, and we are aware that it's probably been a long week for you, and likewise for many of us. But we wanted to use this opportunity to share some exciting technology and news that has come out in recent days. All right, and obviously this particular session is one where we want to celebrate HP, Intel, and Microsoft coming together to provide a very strong, compelling solution called Azure Stack HCI. All right, and don't forget at about 7 p.m. we will be doing a Kahoot quiz. There'll be 12 questions in total. Okay, so this particular session, we are focusing a lot around, if you want, the speed, the performance, right? We have done a lot on the security and affordability in the past, so we're not going to repeat that part of it. But we also want to emphasize that many of our customers expect enterprise reliability, which also includes the ability to handle disaster recovery in a cost affordable manner. Okay, so in this session, there will be a few key aspects being illustrated and described. Okay, so thank you so much for coming. And many of you probably would have seen this slide that I've shown in the past. So in April, we did a meeting that covered off primarily around the virtual desktop running on top of Windows Server 2022 using a feature called Remote Desktop Services. And of course, in this particular capability, we talked about remote app and virtual, what we call virtual desktop, as in publishing Windows 11 specifically. And also through that, we also showed how powerful using like the NVIDIA GPU can to provide seamless, smooth rendering of objects using Adobe Premiere and Adobe Photoshop. Right, so this time around, we wanted to take it further and go back into the architecture of the solution to illustrate how powerful even a two-node DL380 Gen 10 Plus can provide. Right, in our own test environment, right, we were able to illustrate that it can do 1.33 million Iops with 2 nodes. Just imagine that would be what it would be like if we were to do that over 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Right, that's something that we are very excited. And in this session also, we have Danny from Microsoft who's going to share with us some of the latest and hottest announcement that has come out. Okay, so my name is Noel. I'm going to take you through most of this session. And of course, in between all of this, we have some exciting guest speakers. And of course, my team, Chua, as well as Ko, right, who will be taking us through a lot of the demos and illustrating to you that the technology we're talking is not just something that you can imagine, right, but also something that you can actually transform your organization with, right? So that's it. Many of you probably know that the technology trend in the last 10 years or so has primarily been around hyper-converged infrastructure and cloud. So this session really truly illustrates that from a HP, Intel, and Microsoft perspective. So these are our speaking agenda, if you want, for today. Right after I finish these introductory pieces, I'm going to welcome Kendrick from HPE. All right, he's going to take us through a topic that he's going to cover around the HPE compute and how that's driving hybrid cloud successes. And right after that, we will have a dash from Intel. All right, again, right, through a dash sharing, and I always like his sharing because it's very clear and insightful in terms of how technology actually empowers the solution and of course our customers as well. And of course, after that, we have a demo, right? We have a demo that talks to the scenario that both Kendrick and the Dash are covering. And after which Danny will come in, and then right after Danny's exciting Azure Arc content and how it manages, if you want, Azure HCI as a single pane of glass running from Azure itself, right? We will have a demo that Ko is going to take you through. And after which I will run through the rest of the scenarios and so forth. And not forgetting, I would also like to pull in Long from Hanoi, right? And basically, Long will be a feature individual that we want to share with all of you. The fact that we have, if you want, community members across the region, it's important for us to be able to show that aspect of it. So these are the faces of the individual, just in case the video doesn't come out very clear. All right, so we have Kendrick on the left, Adesh in the middle, and Danny on the right. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you Kendrick, Adesh, and Danny for joining us in this. So first up, I want to pass you to Kendrick, who's going to take us through the HPE Compute component in how it drives hybrid cloud. Kendrick, over to you.
Hey Noel, thank you so much. Let me pull up my screen. Let me know when you guys are actually able to see. Okay, let me just.
All good.
Is it good?
Yep. Good. Awesome.
Okay, right. Okay, first and foremost, thank you very much, Noel, for actually inviting us to actually come on, share with you guys, and also kind of like, so to learn some of the new interesting technologies that's actually coming forth. And, it's a very exciting partnership, right? I mean, I think, say, between collaboration between HP, Intel, and Microsoft. And, I do see that, say, this is going to pave the path forward for us, in many of these opportunities down the road, right? So, kind of like just to share that, say, I just want to highlight that, I think importantly is really on the market value and the impact that's actually brought forth by a long-standing collaboration between HP, Intel, and Microsoft. Together, I think we have built a stellar partnership with more than 30 years of co-innovation to empower enterprises with integrated products, solutions, and services that help drive successful business outcomes in this transformative digital age. We're definitely driven, right? I mean, together in this collaboration to ignite innovation with hybrid cloud by unleashing the power of data and redefining experiences at the edge, creating new opportunities for our customers globally. So, the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly brought forth an unprecedented era of digital transformation. It has certainly introduced a much accelerated pace of digital transformations as like remote workspaces, ubiquitous computing with surge of interconnected endpoint devices and new technological trends such as the advent of 5G, opening up new frontiers in edge computing. So as it says that, say, data is the new 21st century currency, and in the IoT world that we live in today, on-demand data processing and decision making on real time becomes ever more important than before, right? But the complexity of this reality is that there's no one perfect cloud that fits all model. Enterprises today operate private, public, and increasingly edge multi-clouds too, right? So at HPE, we define hybrid cloud as a system of cloud services encompassing of public and private on and off premises. And the hybrid nature allows for better flexibility to meet individual application and user requirements with a consistent experience, cost control, security and governance, letting you gain control over the right mix of IT solutions for your current and future applications, whether they live at the edge or at the cloud. So the modernized cloud experience requires the flexibility on applications migration to cloud. But in reality, apart from cloud native apps, actually about 70% of the apps and data are hosted out of the public cloud due to data gravity, application dependency, security, and compliance, right? And so this was actually based on an IDC study that was done in Q1 2020. Even in like specific highly regulated industry verticals such as FSI and healthcare, there's an imperative need for private on-prem deployment, to secure the confidentiality of the client's data, right? So HPE's strategy is to help our customers achieve a single and consistent hybrid cloud experience, and our technological partnership with both Intel and Microsoft offers the perfect right fit of computing platforms and software-defined intelligence to help our customers transform from a traditional IT to a digitally transformed virtualized data center supporting hybrid infrastructure, unlocking new values to their data processing, faster innovation to enable a quicker time to market, and reducing TCO by offering a less complex and simplified operating environment. So, looking at this chart itself, I mean, with the accelerated digital transformation in the distributed cloud world, we see applications and data now living in everywhere in multiple cloud instances, right? Or even at the edge, co-locations, or even in the data centers itself. Organizations may be in different states depending on their different levels of maturity for adoption on cloud agility, as well as the complexity of the business environment that they operate in. So this hybrid architecture helps to meet security compliance, maintain the data sovereignty, ease of performance needs, customization, and manage cost economics as well. So as the numbers stated on the slides, right, also demonstrates that, say, Microsoft Azure is a robust and mature technology which has a high global subscriber usage and has been proven to be one of the industry-leading hybrid cloud software-defined technology to maintain multi-cloud support, managing and running physical servers, VM instances, containerization, and data services between on-prem and cloud itself. Oh, sorry. Okay, so from HPE, right, we actually offer two flavors of how we deploy Azure Stack PCI. If you look at the bottom of the pyramid itself, we have an extensive reference architecture done up on Azure Stack PCI validated configurations along together with Microsoft on Intel technology. And this model offers much flexibility and versatility as it can be applied to brand new hardware purchased on legacy systems that customer currently owns. So retrospectively, this is actually one of the most popular and applied models, and it offers diversity on the choices of the hardware components, which can be easily retrofitted for integration and deployment as long as it concurs with the Azure Stack PCI catalog. And the second flavor, if you look at the the higher end of the pyramid, right, this is actually more of an appliance-like experience, right, where the software is fully integrated, preload at factory along with full burn-in testings on our hardware systems. And this is ideal for customers who are actually seeking a brand new turnkey solution for the ease of deployment and purchase. Okay, so importantly, why HPE and what are some of the key benefits that HPE offers together with Microsoft Azure Stack PCI, right? So if you look at the left-hand side of the slide itself, so HPE actually offers one of the, if not the most actually extensive platform portfolio supported on Azure Stack PCI. We have validated and certified configuration blueprints on our ProLiant data center and performance best sellers, right, on the DL360 and the DL380, both on Gen 10 and Gen 10 Plus with Intel Xeon 2nd Gen and 3rd Gen technology. So even beyond our compute portfolio itself, we have actually also included scoping as well as such as Apollo 4200 and our H-line platforms for HPC usage is also supported, right? And finally, we also successfully launched HPE GreenLake for Azure Stack PCI, where we are offering a consumption-based services for customers who are looking for the flexibility to scale on demand, reducing upfront capex costs boundaries, and as well as easing having the flexibility of a centralized management portal, right? So this is kind of like in line with HPE's edge to cloud strategy as we pivot our vision of having the capability to offer everything as a service in this hybrid cloud environment. And if we move to the middle, second advantage is really say on the storage scalability, or what we or what is termed as JBOD, right? So fundamentally, an Azure cluster can start ranging from like 2 to 16 servers, but of course we want the best TCO equation for our customers, and ensuring say that they are optimizing the compute, storage, and networking resources on their purchase system. So with a validated support for JBOD, customers can actually easily harness the use of storage cluster virtualization to fit into their optimal usage without the need to having purchased additional servers, adding on to the clusters as memory and storage are typically the most true upgraded resources when customers are looking to scale up, right? And finally, also that HPE also spend across our storage architecture validation, not only just on SAS, SATA, and NVMe, but also including Intel Optane persistent memory as a phase change memory class storage as well. This is also important because architecturally we support a diverse configuration of the storage formats in the market on our Azure Stack configurations for our customers so that they actually have the broad choice of selection. And in addition, I'll be kind of like sharing some further details later on how Intel Optane technology can actually significantly boost the TCO for our customer and also the performance in our Azure Stack setup. Okay, so this is a quick overview slide on to summarize like the Azure Stack HCI offering by HPE from resource support perspective. So depending on the customer's workload requirements, they have a choice to select which compute platform actually offers them the best value at play. In the interest of time, I wouldn't go through each and every single one detail, but I've appended a link below, and I believe most of you will probably be very familiar with this as this is actually the link directly to our HPE website that showcases the Azure Stack catalog that we have and all the certified reference architecture that we have actually built in. And we also have some interesting tech videos actually in the same link as well. So, feel free to actually take it, for your own pleasure reading when available. So foundationally, there are a few building blocks of our hybrid cloud strategy, and this actually starts off with composability, right? So which is the ability to quickly and easily access and provision resources from fluid resource pools on demand to support applications running in the containers, cloud, and bare metal. So our composable software layer consists of software-defined automation capabilities such as our HPE OneView platform, which is actually a unified API, and it works actually in real time with minimal infrastructure for business critical workflows, reducing time to deploy and provisioning large fleets of servers and reducing data center administrative operation costs. And our software-defined approach also extends to AI-driven operations with our HPE InfoSight, which is a cloud-based AI platform where machine learning algorithms are constantly being modeled and sandboxing techniques are actually being deployed to create a more robust and predictive analytics engine. So, and all in all, is to create, that automated and content-aware security system, building an, more foolproof and robust ecosystem for the customers itself. Okay, so as I was sharing earlier, as part of our HPE GreenLake hybrid cloud portfolio, we now offer HPE GreenLake for Microsoft Azure's stack, right? So this brings forth the simplification, cloud agility, and economics along with the security and performance benefits for both on-prem as well as cloud deployment, where customers now they have the facility to determine the right mix of hybrid cloud and workload placement. So this is all centrally managed by our HPE GreenLake Central, saving the customers the hassle of having to manage multiple UIs. And this consumption-based cloud solution also offer convenient pay-per-use billing that includes hardware, software, and other services from HPE Point services that they can actually all done it in a centralized single invoicing to the customer itself. Okay, this is an extended slide to illustrate how HPE GreenLake for Microsoft Azure Stack HCI offers a complete solution, including scalable hyper-converged infrastructure, software and services, all delivered to your data center and co-location facility, and also will be fully managed by our customers themselves, right? HPE provides the integrated system built on our HPE GreenLake Lighthouse cloud-native infrastructure, and that's actually fully installed and configured with the Azure Stack HCI software. Then the software management comes from the HPE GreenLake Central, as well as together with the Windows Admin Center and Azure Control Plane. And last but not least, we also have all this will be actually fully supported with a robust round-the-clock 24/7 support services, which includes infrastructure monitoring, telemetry, to complete the whole hybrid cloud experience for the customers. Okay, security is definitely one very critical aspect, right? I mean, as you know, in the hybrid cloud environment, and we also further differentiate the experience, not just by leveraging AI, but also down to the very silicon level on the motherboard to protect the end-to-end environment. So our unique silicon root of trust security technology actually protects the firmware in the HPE servers by burning a unique silicon fingerprint as a security identification upon server boot. Starting the most fundamental level, and then it validates for if there's any compromise or rogue firmware coding that's actually has corrupted the system. And this proprietary security technology is actually integrated into our ProLiant Synergy and Apollo products. So in fact, we have industry recognized accolade awards by Marsh, in which they have actually conducted a cyber catalyst survey to measure the effectiveness of cybersecurity risk reductions, and HPE has been a proven market security leader in our ecosystem. And we have also extended our security regions along with Microsoft to ensure data security and confidentiality is not compromised. And we are also, that's also being strictly observed with industry regulatory standards for compliance. Okay, so in summary, so these are some of the value propositions and how Microsoft Azure Stack can actually support our customers on this transformative journey, right? So, it's a hybrid by design, and we have simplified operations to actually help customers to actually better automate their environment, reducing the complexity in consideration say that they could be managing multiple cloud instances, they could be moving between on-prem and the cloud itself, and the ease of the deployment and the flexibility for them to scale on demand. And last but not least, all this actually eventually will lead to a better cost affordability and TCO equation for the customers itself. And and last but not least, the performance is definitely very critical in this aspect as well. I mean, in combination of all these elements to bring the best value for the customers. And just a quick note that HPE is a certified Gold partner with Microsoft as a Azure cloud solution provider, and in turn we do offer the ease of offering the convenience to our customers to procure Azure cloud subscription services and licensing via our Pointix services. And in turn, customers will actually get support on onboarding assistance, management portal setup, help with the use, and as well as a pay as you go monthly invoicing, all directly from HPE itself. Okay, so earlier on I actually shared a little bit on HPE ILO and OneView as well. So I believe some of you might be familiar that these are actually HPE proprietary technology, right? I mean, in terms of like monitoring, predictive, and automation software capabilities. So in alignment with our edge to cloud strategy, we are also newly launching a unified, secure, automated cloud compute management, where what we term in HPE as HPE Compute Ops Manager, right? So available through our HPE GreenLake. So COMS, or we call it like Compute Ops Manager, is actually built on a unique cloud-native architecture that automates and transforms complex, time-consuming infrastructure management operations into a simplified cloud experience, from the edge to the cloud. So we are officially targeting for launch sometime to market in June timeframe, and this will be actually made available for not only just our existing GreenLake customers, but also our non-GreenLake customers as well. Yeah. Okay. So HPE Com actually transforms compute management across the enterprise by delivering cloud operations securely to distributed compute infrastructure, simplifying and automating lifecycle management, unifying the management through a single console, and wherever the infrastructure is, right? So this is especially useful for customers who want a single pane of control, via remote management for their large distribution fleet of HPE servers. We can be largely distributed in different locations, or where it can be located follows itself. And the cloud services portfolio can then be easily expanded and deployed for compute management. So just to share that in initial launch, this will be available for our ProLine Gen 10 and Gen 10 Plus servers, but there are actually roadmaps in developments to further expand comms to actually include other server categories as well into the future. Okay, so this is just kind of overview chart to really show that, say, how what comms actually really does for the customer, in terms of like streamlining the cloud operations, the simplification, orchestration, and automation, and unifying the whole experience for the customer. So it actually really starts off from being able to configure and deploy, and it's a seamless process going from all the way until order. So all in all, this is actually end-to-end lifecycle management that we're actually providing in suite actually for the customers itself. Okay, so now shifting gears into Intel Optane technology. I think Noel earlier on gave actually some sneak peek on some of the the very impressive, very impressive numbers, right? And that performance benchmarks that we have actually done together with Intel Optane on our DL380 Gen 10 Plus on Azure Stack HCI 2 nodes, right? I just want to kind of share a little bit more on the Intel Optane memory technology, right? So this is an innovative class of phase change memory, which plays actually a very integral aspect, on optimizing workloads and costs for our customers, right? So if you can see at the top of it, these are some of the key common workloads and use applications. And the Intel Optane persistent memory can be used to support across multiple workloads, from VM provisioning, containers per system, even in-memory database workloads with higher capacity caching tiers, data persistency with fast storage, real-time analytics processing such as OLTP, and software device storage and HCI workloads. So I mean the list can go on and on, right? But the amount of the application use cases is actually so wide and diverse, right? And this is the first memory product that is actually launched in the market and by Intel that said that it can actually be operated in 3 different modes, right? So we have it in a memory mode, app direct mode, or a mixed use mode. So the question is often, which is the preferred mode for specific workloads? And the beauty of this is that, say, depending on what is the specific requirements, it actually offers versatility in terms of the functionality and the features that it can bring to you in ensuring say that there is an optimal performance for your workloads itself, right? So in example, in memory mode itself, the DRAM will function as a caching for most frequently accessed data, while the persistent memory itself will actually provide the large memory capacity. So in conjunction, if you compare to what the standard DRAM can be offered in the market today, the Intel persistent memory actually offers a much better cost from a cost per gig ratio efficiency, and as well as a much larger memory footprint support, right? So this is actually a more common usage of PMEM, especially for VM provisioning, virtualized database, and big data analytics. But however, this also we also to know that, say, there's actually no data persistency in memory mode. So alternatively, customers also have the choice that say, okay, to use app direct mode on the other hand, where operations that actually requires the lowest latency and don't need permanent data storage can be actually executed on the DRAM, and they require the data to be actually made persistent, routed through the PMEM, right? So the app direct mode will be actually the right and ideal fit, and this is actually more largely applied in in-memory databases, in-memory analytics frameworks, and ultra-fast storage applications as well. Okay, so so this is an internal HPE benchmark that we have actually done on the Azure Stack HCI. So in the same environment itself, we have actually kind of like, there's 2 different clusters, right? So we can see that we have actually did one is also on a 2 node for DL380 Gen 10, and we did one without any Intel Optane persistent memory, right? And it's just a 4 SSDs retrofitted. And on the right hand side, you can see that we did one on the DL380 Gen 10 Plus with a 3rd gen Intel Ice Lake processor, along with it of the Intel Optane persistent memory itself. And honestly, the results was actually simply really quite mind-blowing. I mean, even when I saw it for myself, I was actually really very surprised, right? I mean, in terms of the Iops, we can see that that has significantly and dramatically jumped up, right? So, this actually offers a much, much better TCO in consideration comparatively between, the two setups. And, customers actually are able to actually maximize their VM density and significantly actually bring down the cost itself. Okay, and this is this is what I think Noel has actually kind of like shown earlier, right? So you can actually see that, say, we also did some benchmarking testing in close collaboration together with Microsoft, and the kind of IOPS that we actually seen is really up to 1.3 million. So I have not seen anything on the tool note, I haven't seen anything that's actually kind of like has more significantly better results than this. So, I mean, it's really impressive, right? And everything said that there's a lot of opportunities for us to kind of collaborate closer and to see how we can actually bring this value better to the market together. So with that, that's my last slide. If there's any questions from the team, I'll be anything, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to share.
Thank you, Kendrick. Thank you. I always like to see those numbers flipping through.
Oh, yes.
Hi, Adesh. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, hello everyone.
Yeah, your timing is perfect.
Okay.
All right, cool. Without further ado, let me hand you over to Adesh, who's going to take us through a very exciting sharing from Intel. All right, over to you, Adesh. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Noel, I'm just sharing my slides. Let me know if you can see my slides.
Oh, good.
Is it coming out? Okay, great. Hey, thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to come and talk to you. My name is Adesh. I'm responsible for the HP business in Intel for APJ. I'm based out of Singapore and extremely happy to be here to give you a perspective of some of the innovations that are happening. And Kendrick talked to you about the great stuff at the system level that HP is building for Gen 10 Plus with a number of technologies from Intel, whether it's a CPU or the Optane persistent memory 200 series or other technologies that we have integrated in partnership with HPE. And so what I want to do is to give you a perspective, among the three companies on how we have innovated together and how we have brought about some of the technologies in such a way that it gives you incredible performance for the software stack from Microsoft. And I'll also give you a perspective of our roadmap just to lay out as we move from the current generation of products, what is it that we're looking at into the future. So, when we talk about hybrid and we talk about, the evolution of the infrastructure in the data center, we have evolved from, we've evolved from a server infrastructure acceleration into a more what we call as a data first acceleration. And when we look at a data first movement in the current scenario, we talk about how is it that we could harness the potential, the power of data at different points of the data source or different points of as the data travels to from one point to the other. And in order to do that, there is immense value of inferring insights from the data and deriving value from the data, and then that allows the organization to make decisions. And so when we look at the entire spectrum of data from the source as it travels through to various points within the enterprise, there is an element of digitization that is setting in. And when we talk about digitization, it is a combination of native technologies that have emerged over the last couple of decades from the cloud into bringing in some really high performance, low latency kind of environments for the data. In addition to that, the security paradigm is shifting, and I think Kendra talked about some of the security innovations that HP is putting on the platform, and all of that in order to harness the power of data. We have to capitalize on AI. We have to capitalize on the technologies that are coming in, incredible technologies from Microsoft, from HPE, and from Intel that is able to give you a better value as the data flows through the enterprise. And what we see is it's not necessarily a cloud all technologies. There are hybrid approaches, and what we say is a hybrid cloud is the path forward, which we believe is now becoming the foundation. In any conversations you have, it's about, you know, a hybrid approach for the applications, for the workload, for the solution that a line of business runs or an enterprise runs. And when we look at you know, the hybrid cloud environment, it is now becoming fundamental how companies run and drive operations in this economy that we are all in. In fact, Satya, who is the CEO of Microsoft, he says that we have seen 2 years worth of transformation happen in 2 months. You know, so there's an accelerated pace of transformation, or what you call a digital transformation, that has happened. Pandemic was one of the levers that actually helped through the transformation process, but there were other levers as well that organizations wanted to capitalize on to push the transformation journey forward. And Microsoft saw this as an opportunity of how they could create unique products to leverage the benefits of data in this transformation journey. And so we, from an Intel perspective, are also creating innovation in such a way that we improve the life of every person on the planet. That's our purpose. That's what we try and do every single day, every single, you know, month that we are on creating the products and bringing it to you as our customers. And the way we do this as a company within Intel is through a set of capabilities that we have created over a period of time. We have capabilities on software with over 15,000 plus software engineers in Intel. A lot of people, right? But that's how much we are, and we do nothing but, those people do nothing but software, optimizing 100 plus different operating systems, variations of the operating systems, and creating the necessary hooks that are required in order to give you the performance for the application. We create obviously the silicon and various platforms, and then we have at the processor level and a packaging technology and a process technology to give you the best level of transistor performance that you can get. And all of this has been at scale manufacturing, right? So it's the benefits of, you know, the engineering we put on the software side running on an Intel silicon that is all packaged together on a platform, for example, like HPE. And so with our silicon in there, we believe we have an opportunity to give the customers the necessary performance, whether it is for their application or whether it is the latency that they require for accelerating the data, or even, for example, it might be to reduce the carbon footprint in order to ensure that they have, you know, a better sustainability for their enterprise. And so with Microsoft and HP together, we have been working for a very long period of time, over 35 years. You know, many of you were probably, you know, just born at that time, or maybe not even born at that time, but that's the kind of history that we have between the three companies. Tremendous innovation, whether it's innovating at some of the key technologies like USB, right? USB was innovated in partnership with HP and Microsoft. We talk about some of the other derivatives that we have of USB, the different types that we have, all of that came out of the work that we did together. The rack servers, for example, the definition of the rack servers, you know, which has now become industry standard, was in partnership with HPE. Talking about mission critical, some of the work that we did on the mission critical side, you know, and in order to create a unique value proposition as we took on other architectures to compete, That was created in partnership with HP, and obviously partnership with Microsoft goes back a long way, starting obviously from the PC operating system and then into the server operating system. And as we look at the other domain softwares within Microsoft, there has been a very strong partnership between the organizations. And as I look at this portfolio of the different boxes that you see on the screen, these are the new areas that we are all working together on: autonomous vehicles, smart retail, smart factories, working on high performance computing clusters, creating technologies for accelerating data on communication networks, be it 5G or derivatives as they come out, right? So we believe that the partnership with Microsoft and HPE is strong, and we expect this to grow moving forward. With the third generation processors that we have today, and Kendrick talked about that earlier as well on the HPE Gen 10 Plus platforms, we are driving a much higher workload performance, or 50% workload performance compared to the previous gen. It is designed for flexibility at scale. When we say flexibility, we have variations of the third gen Intel Xeon Scalable processor, which are uniquely designed for specific purpose. We have processors that are designed for density, processors that are designed to give you virtualization, better virtualization performance and capabilities, processors that are designed with a much higher frequency, but a slightly different cache architecture. So we have these what we call as unique custom processors within the family that gives the end customer the flexibility of choosing what processor he wants. And all of this is made available to HPE in their Gen 10 Plus platforms. Crypto acceleration, advanced security facility capabilities as well have been provided in Ice Lake. That's a code name. And so when we look at the processor and start peeling the processor and look inside the hood and see what is it that we have right inside our third gen Xeon Scalable processor, there are a number of security solutions. The software guard extensions, which is huge, which is big, that gives us the ability to run applications in a very large memory footprint by creating an enclave within the memory infrastructure and ensuring that that application is extremely safe. And this is required for some mission critical environments. We have crypto acceleration to accelerate cryptography data, encryption, decryption, again, very useful in the environment that we all live in. We have total memory encryption as well, where you have the ability to encrypt the entire memory. You're familiar with encryption of the disk, right? The hard disk, right? And we do that because you want to protect the data. But what happens for the data that is in the memory? You want to make sure that the data is also protected. So we have encryption capabilities too that can be turned on the platforms. And we have platform firmware resilience, another feature that helps you maintain the platform firmware integrity from malware or from other viruses that might come into your system and infect your firmware. These are some of the security solutions, not all. There are a lot more. I'm just giving you perspective, some of the advanced solutions that we have on the platform. On the scaling side and the customizable side, we have Deep Learning Boost, which is targeted for accelerating AI inferencing. Speed select technology that gives you, again, a dynamic ability to change the processor frequency within the same thermal envelope so that you are able to get a much better efficiency. We have AVX 512, where we are able to, it's again, we are providing new set of instructions to give you a better performance for vector applications. And then we have one API, which is our optimized software development platform to allow our customers and ISVs and developers to have their applications that is able to run across multiple different Intel architectures, not just the CPU, but also our accelerators, our GPUs, and our other products that we are coming out in the future. And so that's at a high level. And then as you start looking at the nuts and bolts and the speeds and feeds, you can see that below on what we are able to provide on the platform, right? From a performance perspective as well, right? We have now got Optane support, both SSDs and PMEM. We also obviously support our SSD drives and the NAND drives as well. And then there are a set of solutions that we have made ready, which are called as select solutions. We have market ready solutions on the platform that we have validated and tested that our customers can see and use across different use cases for Ice Lake. With HCI, I think this is an area which is becoming increasingly attractive for enterprises, because with hyper-converged infrastructure, there is a significant value that enterprises see, right? Whether it is being able to reduce infrastructure, whether it's able to have a much better resiliency for their hardware as it gets outdated in their infrastructure, and so on. And what we have seen is in conversations with the enterprise customers, especially the senior executives, we found out that 84% plan to expand their HCI install base over the next 3 years, and 15% plan to keep their install base about the same. So basically, customers are seeing value for hyper-converged infrastructure, right? And with the partnership with HPE and Microsoft, this is an area that we really want you to take advantage of. And when we look at the benefits that Intel brings in to HP and Microsoft, it's not just the processor, which obviously gives you immense capability, but we also have, memory virtualization support through Optane persistent memory. We have got storage is also virtualized, with Optane, and then you have our Ethernet 800 series, which is our latest generation of our 10, 25, 100 gig network adapters as well. And so across the platform, when you look at the CPU, the memory, and the network, when it's integrated together, it creates a balanced platform design, especially when you're looking at HPE ProLine family of servers, or even the Synergy family of servers, or the Apollo family of servers, the different platforms that HP has. We have this consistent, we're creating this consistent foundation as we look at integrating these different components from the Intel portfolio. So for HCI environments, we have Optane, which is again, I think you'll hear more about it later on. Noel and team will be sharing with you the significant value that Optane brings, right? So we've got two flavors of this. There's a persistent memory flavor, and there is a caching, or what we call as our SSD flavor, right? And each of these are different, right? The persistent memory flavor is a DIMM form factor, sits on the memory bus, gives you persistency. It is non-volatile. It gives you tremendous capacity and extremely fast recovery times, right? In terms of when you're running applications like HANA, for example. For the Optane SSDs, the benefits that we are telling our customers is for caching and metadata tiers. And the reason for that is because it has extremely low latency. I mean, we're talking about much lower than SSDs. The performance is very high, especially when you're looking at write-intensive applications. And that's where the Optane SSDs has significant value. You have SSDs of different types, right? You have read-intensive, write-intensive, and mixed use as well. The benefit that we have seen with Optane SSDs is for write-intensive workloads. And for those kind of workloads, the performance is significantly higher. In addition to that, it has very high endurance. We are talking about 30 times more endurance than a normal SSD, right? So great products in conjunction with the processors are able to give you tremendous benefits in an HCI environment. And in fact, when you're looking at working with Azure Stack HCI, we are seeing over 100% better throughput, right, versus other technologies in the previous generation, right? So tremendous performance gain when you integrate these benefits of Optane persistent memory with 3rd gen Xeon processor. Latency is improved by 10%, read latency, and write latency is improved by 175% because now you're bringing in the benefits of Optane SSDs, with which is a P50, 5800, 5801X into the equation. The portfolio we have, with HPE that supports this great products from Intel. We have ProLines, Synergy, Superdome. I mean, that's a whole range of products, right? And I think what Kendrick talked earlier was a glimpse of some of the capabilities that HPE has on the ProLines service. But there are other product lines as well of HPE that can integrate the Intel value of the CPU and the Optane persistent memory and Optane SSD on the platform. With respect to our roadmap, where we are today, as you look at our, 2021, that's the window. That's where we are in today with Ice Lake. We have launched a product on 2 sockets, which is a 3rd gen Xeon scalable processor. And as we move to the later half of this year, we are looking at launching Sapphire Rapids, which is on a new platform, Eagle Stream platform. That will be a 4th generation Intel Xeon scalable processor. It's built on a new process technology. It'll have new packaging capabilities as well. It has a new set of transistors as well, what we call as enhanced superfin. We now are extending the support of memory from DDR4 to DDR5, so the memory bus bandwidth goes up significantly. The PCI bus as well changes from PCI Gen 4 to Gen 5. We're also increasing the speed of our links between the processors in a dual socket or greater than 2 socket platforms using CXL 1.1. And then we have support for the next generation of persistent memory, which is Optane 300 series, right? So a lot of good stuff coming with 4th gen scalable processor that's at a later part of this year. But all of that continues to be with the commitment of software and solution innovation, right? It's not just having the processor that matters to the customer. It is what and how we integrate that seamlessly on a platform with the software that's validated and tested and qualified and secure and stable for the customer. So that's where the work that we do with HPE and Microsoft comes into play. So in summary, this is my last slide. We would, encourage you to embrace hybrid because we see that digitization is here to stay. There is an accelerated movement towards transformation, and in that transformation journey, we are creating products like 3rd gen Xeon processor, which has got capabilities such as DL boost integrated on the processor, right? So it's the first AI processor in the market, which has got those capabilities built in. And then obviously in partnership with HPE and Microsoft, we're hoping to create the best experience for you, right? And when you look at the hyper-converged market and you look at the hyper-converged infrastructure and capabilities that are getting built on top with Azure Stack at CI, it is tremendous. And I think we encourage you to take benefits of that and let us know how we can further help you. So Noel, with that, I hand over back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adesh. Thank you so much for that. I always enjoy looking at the slides that you share. The more information is so rich. I wish there's a way that I can just glean as much as possible. Just that with age catching up, I think there's no way I can pick up everything. I probably have to keep coming back to you. All right. So Danny, we're gonna
Danny there. Hi, Danny.
First.
Hi.
All right, we're going to do a demo first before we pass the thing over to you, okay? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Adesh. Thank you. So I'm just going to flash up a slide for Adesh in recognition of his. Okay. Just give me a second, Chua.
Okay, good.
I want to make sure that we capture the recording correctly. All right, so thank you so much for that, Adesh. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Sharing is always insightful. I'm sure the audience probably have a lot to ask. It's just that I know it's the end of the week, and probably for a lot of people, it's been a very long week. So I don't blame them for probably, very exhausted already. So in fact, I was just talking to Gregor and a couple other people the other day. I think we need to probably rework on the timing of our sessions, all right, so that we do it probably during the working hours, if it's at all possible, right?
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do is in order to support what Kendrick and Nadesh have shared from a technology perspective, especially pertaining to storage, all right, I've asked Chua to dive into his rich, right, repertoire of demos, right? And I know he's been extensively recording a number of the different sharing that he's been doing. So I've asked him to resurrect some of these recordings that he's done over the last 12 months and so regarding the performance, all right? So Chua, can you take us through some of the insights that you have found with the technology, with the Gen 10 Plus and the Intel Optane persistent memory?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Chua. Thank you.
Can everyone see my slide?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So this is some info about myself. So I'm going to show you about this Azure Stack HCI performance benchmark. Okay, I believe this number is not strange, and I think quite of you familiar with this number already, because just now the slide, the previous presentation, you also see this one. So this in fact is the Iops result we get from the test with these two nodes, HPE DL380 Gen 10 Plus. And then we are using CPU Intel Xeon 6330 Ice Lake processor. It's a two-piece processor in one node server. Okay, so in total, in the two nodes, we have 4 pieces of this CPU, and this is a 3rd generation Intel Xeon CPU. And we have a 512 GB RAM, and then OS. Oh, sorry, I think the OS. This OS actually we have 2 kind of OS to do the testing. One is using Azure Stack HCI OS, another is a Windows Server 2022 Data Center Edition. And then we have this is a normal NL SAS hard disk. Okay, so another one is this one, Intel Optane NVMe. So this setup is actually the 3 tiers storage setup. Okay, so this just now this and this is as a storage disk. Okay, and what puts so high for this Iops performance is actually this one, the secret behind. I think just now you also know that this is the Intel Optane persistent memory. Okay, so we have if we look back, we have the 8 pieces of the Intel Optane persistent memory in each node server. Okay, so this setup is so special. Okay, so that's why I can push the Iops to so high, 1.3 millions when the time we do the test. Okay, so let's take a look how we do the test. So we have the 2 nodes Azure Stack HCI as what you see here. And in the testing, we use the 40 VM in each node to run the test. And let's see, this is the VM fleet command. And this each command, so fast. Okay, let's take a look back. So this command, W parameter, actually represent that is a write 0%, read 100%. While, oops. Okay, while 20%, 80%, 70% read. All these W denotes the difference write percentage. And then we have the buffer. The others parameter B represent buffer size. And then we use 4K. And then T means that is a thread count. O is the outstanding IO count. D is the duration. It's the 300 seconds, which is actually 5 minutes for each test. So let's take a look how we actually run this test. So I have all these commands, right? So for the first test, I'm using this 100% read. I just copy and paste into the VM fleets command prompt. And then after that, this command actually will trigger. Okay. So we have to wait for a while until you see this stage start to go the epoch. Okay, then from the other command, this is the watcher of the VM fleet. Then it will show the Iops. As here you can see that this is the Iops reading. Okay, So this is how actually we get to know the Iops result. The other way, we actually can get to read the Iops from the Windows Admin Center. So from the Windows Admin Center dashboard, we drag down until you see this one, Iops. So this is another way of reading the Iops. Okay, so through this, we actually run out the test. And how actually this is the benchmark result we get. So as what you can see here, we have two tests. This is using the Azure Stack HCI OS. Another one is the Windows Server 2022 Data Center Edition. And then the result, what you see, this is the highest record we get. And we get the average Iops. It's not through the one-time tests. Each test we run 3 times. And then after that, we get the average. Okay. And compare to this one, Azure Stack HCI OS slightly get higher records. Okay. And the test criteria is what you can see here. We have 40 VM and then duration is 5 minutes. Okay, and how we actually run this is actually through this VM Fleet 2.0. So this is the site actually from here at the bottom. Actually, I will share this slide to you. It actually guide you to this VM Fleet 2.0 site, and through this site, it actually gives you the step-by-step guide how to actually run the VM Fleet. Okay. And next thing, what is new in this VM Fleet 2.0? In fact, this VM Fleet, there's a previous version is 1.0, and now this is a 2.0. And this 2.0 actually, you can actually run directly to the PowerShell. You don't need to separately download. Okay, you can just to install the module VM Fleet, then you can actually get to have this module inside your PowerShell. So this is something new, and then it actually give the guideline to the Microsoft website directly, step by step, how to run it. Instead of the previous version, you cannot find it through the Microsoft website. And now it's actually easier to deploy compared to the previous version. Okay, so that's all about for my presentation. I'll pass back to Danny. Okay, Danny, I pass the stage back to you. Thank you.
Hi guys, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Share my screen now.
Thank you, Danny.
Okay, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, yes, we
okay,
can.
Good. Okay, just okay. Good evening, guys. Let me quickly do a quick reintroduction of myself again. I'm the Azure Stack HCI specialist from Microsoft DPSS, and I cover the APAC region countries. And anyway, thanks for the time on this Friday evening instead of going out and learn something new. All right, I'm going to take this opportunity to cover the Azure Stack the Azure Hybrid, and especially on the Azure Stack HCI plus Azure Arc. And the Azure, basically the Azure Arc is very tightly integrated with the Azure Stack HCI, but there are also a lot of other things you can actually do with it. So I'm going to leave that to Noel and Code after this, and they can actually show you more. Okay, I don't have too many slides, just enough, I hope. So okay, let's start. Okay, if you look at many of our customers' environments today, it's clear they continue to grow in complexity and are struggling to manage their legacy systems and applications while modernizing for the cloud. Applications are running across a diverse infrastructure in their data centers, in hosting environments, branch offices, and even in multi-cloud environments. So to add to this complexity, different teams, within the organization are using a variety of tools, languages, frameworks, as well as approaches, like open source, Kubernetes, and DevOps. They are actually looking for help. In fact, in many cases, it starts off with a conversation centered around security and how they can govern their data centers and applications and so on. It actually evolved into an application modernization conversation, and how they can better develop and deliver agility for their users within the organizations. Okay, so let's talk about what the trends are like, and according to Gartner, right? So number one, Distributed cloud will displace private and hybrid cloud initiatives, and customers don't want separate public and private cloud environments. Customers are deploying on-premises infrastructures that integrates together with their cloud and treat it as one single distributed fabric. The other one would be the containers and serverless will become an infrastructure for foundation for applications platforms, and developers are creating new apps in the cloud using containers, serverless models, and they expect this to be used. They expect to be able to use the same apps on premises when they actually bring it back down from the cloud. And hybrid and multi-cloud adoption will increase operational complexity, and we understand it. So Microsoft recognizes this, and agrees with these trends. And in fact, this is why, it is addressed in our cloud strategy at Microsoft. Okay, so our mission, with Azure HCI plus Azure is to deliver the best of Azure to these customers, on their servers that they control with their preferred tools on their premises. It's simple, right? So let's talk a bit on the Azure Arc. What is Azure Arc? So Azure Arc is for customers looking to innovate anywhere. By anywhere, I mean, in the cloud, on premises, at the edge, in a multi-cloud environment, and practically anywhere, right? So Azure Arc is a framework for the Azure ecosystem of services, applications to run on a variety of hardware and IoT devices across Azure, multi-cloud data centers, and the edge environments. And Azure Arc provides a consistent and flexible development operations and secure model for both new and existing applications. So Azure provides a way, for us to deliver Azure services that can run on customers' premises like SQL management instances and so on. So it's basically the glue, that binds the cloud, the Azure cloud and multi-cloud environment to that on-premise environment. Okay, this means you can truly innovate anywhere, right? If you have existing things that are running on premises that need to keep running on premises, it's not a problem, right? If with Azure Arc, we can actually help govern inventory and secure and manage that. And if you're looking to deploy new cloud applications in the cloud and on premises, it's not a problem because Azure Arc will help you with that and will deliver Azure services on premises as well. You can manage your applications on premises or in the cloud, and we can actually deliver Azure services on premise. So if you look into this chart itself, you can just imagine this as the this is Azure, and these are the services that you can actually utilize in Azure. And with Azure, you can actually extend these services down to on-premise infrastructure, as in the form of the Azure HCI. And while you're on-premise, you can utilize Azure Arc to manage third-party clouds, or or it allows you to do multi-cloud management and deployment. And it also allows you to span across management of the the Azure IoT devices or IoT devices that are based on Azure HCI or the Azure Stack Edge deployments, right? And it also allows you to manage the multi-operating systems such as Linux and Windows servers, right? And all on a single pane of glass. So and the Azure Arc and the Azure Stack HCI operating system is always being upgraded. And there's no version 1, version 2. It's version indefinite. where we actually will publish new releases every 6 to 12 months, right? Okay, so let me quickly touch on what's new coming or is already here. So what we are trying to do here is to redefine what hybrid cloud is really all about. Okay, we actually announced this Azure Stack HCI single node support on the Azure Stack HCI, infrastructure deployment or options, right? And it will mean a smaller footprint, which reduces hardware, operational costs, while still providing native integration with Azure Arc. It is great for environment that have physical space constraints, such as the retail outlets, the branch offices, or basically anywhere that has constraint, space constraints, or do not need too many VMs, so as to say. Okay, so the Azure Stack HCI single node deployment actually offers full SDDC stack, Azure Arc integration, management through Azure Portal and Windows Admin Center, Azure billing and registration. And the Azure Stack HCI single node deployment is ideal for, as I mentioned earlier on, environments with no data center infrastructure, where cost-sensitive deployments need to do multiple locations, like multiple outlets across a city, across multiple cities, states, and so on. And locations that are environmentally challenged, such as dust, humidity, and so on. So this will actually give opportunity, as what Adesh mentioned earlier on, the HPE H9 servers, which are actually ruggedized servers, and it can be deployed in room temperature instead of an air-conditioned environment, right? And for those who actually require just a few VMs per location, therefore needing a low number of cores. And this will actually fit into a lot of environments out there, which currently require minimum of 2 nodes in a stack, right? So we're actually trying to re-engineering the way we actually help customers consume IT and deploy IT. Okay, the other big thing would be the Azure Virtual Desktop, which is currently under public review. So we are now offering GPU pools for high availability and automatic failover. We can deliver whole GPU acceleration to your most demanding workloads, and all this can easily be managed and integrated with PowerShell and Windows Admin Center. So it lets you deploy Azure Virtual Desktop in a session host to your on-premise Azure HCI infrastructure. You can also use Azure, Azure Virtual Desktop, or in short AVD, for Azure HCI to manage your sessions hosts from an Azure portal. If you already have an existing on-premise virtual desktop infrastructure or VDI deployment, Azure Virtual Desktop for Azure HCI can actually improve administrator and end user experience. If you're already, you can actually extend, your deployment to your on-premise infrastructure to better meet your performance and data needs. Improve performance for Azure Virtual Desktop users in areas with poor connectivity to the Azure public cloud. Not just Azure public cloud, it can be other clouds, right? By giving them session hosts closer to their location. Meet data locality requirements by keeping apps and user data on premises, right? It improves access to legacy on-premises apps and data sources by keeping virtual desktops and apps in the same location. It reduces cost and improves user experience with Windows 10 and Windows 11 Enterprise multi-session with virtual desktops. And it actually helps simplify your VDI deployment and management, compared to traditional on-premise VDI solutions by using the Azure portal itself. Okay, hopes I'm done. That's my slide, a simple 14-page slide. So I'm going to hand this back to the team here who will actually go through more in depth on the Azure Arc itself.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to get Cole to jump in. All right. Time seems to be flying by really quick. All right. It looks like we won't have enough time as what Chua has highlighted. So over to you, Cole.
Yeah, no
Please.
worries. Let me share my
Take it
screen.
through. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Good evening. Can you see my screen actually?
Yep. Sure thing.
Okay, good. All right. So good evening, everyone. I'm Cole. I'm the technology specialist from MyDLC. Right. So thanks, Danny, on the great sharing about the capability of the Azure Arc on the hybrid scenario. Right. So I'm going to add on to that with demo recording that I did. All right. All right. So as shared by Danny, we understand that Azure Arc is the central control plane to security via the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which continuously monitor the security posture of the Azure environment, right? And it visualize and analyze and respond to the monitoring data and events via the Azure Monitor, right? And in addition to that, Azure Arc audit the resources using the Azure policy. Right? Azure Arc also gives us a powerful way to track changes, inventory, and even software update and patches. Right? Let me show you a demo recording that I created for you. All right. So in this demo, I'm going to show you how powerful Azure Arc is to help us manage the Azure Stack HCI. Right? So I'm going to zoom in on the node 1 on my cluster. Of this cluster, and I show you what you can do with this node. Right? Let's take a look on Azure Security Center. Now has been rebranded as Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Right? It shows the overall security posture of my monitored environment. In this example, it's my Azure HCI cluster, right? With a secure scope and provide the very important recommendation and to improve it. Right? And secondly, I would like to take a look on the policy menu. Right? It shows the compliance stage of my monitored environment. Right? I can click on the non-compliant resources to understand more about the compliance detail and also get to understand on the recommendation and how to improve the compliance. Right? And moving forward, we take a look on the log analytic menu. Right? We can enable log analytic features to visualize and analyze, right, and respond to monitoring data and events. So as an example here, I can customize the query script and to generate the event structure based on my requirement. Right? Speaking to performance data, right? What I can also do is I can use the Azure Monitor to have an overview on the resources utilization of my cluster node, right? Like the CPU usage, the disk usage, and so on, right? And at the same time, I also get a dependency map to have an overall understanding of the incoming, right, as well as outgoing traffic to and from my monitored server. Right, I can also drill in and have a deep dive on to get understand where does the server actually access. Right, so this is what I get from the insightful map. Right, and in addition to that, I also get a change tracking capability on software, files, services, as well as registry. You also get a software inventory as well. Right, so I can see here all the applications which are installed and also the Windows services status as well. Right. Last but not least, I want to show you the update management capability for enabled server. And obviously, I can view all the updates that is available for my cluster, and I can actually schedule an update for it. Right. So that's all for me for the point of view of Azure Arc. Right. Thank you very much, and over to you now.
Thank you, Cole.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. All right, let me just share my screen. Just trying to rework the agenda a little bit, right? So that we can try and fit in all the important pieces that we have planned.
Definitely. Go for it.
All right, so that was cool. All right, so that ends the first segment, all right, if you want, before we jump into more demos and so forth, right? So we had Kendrick and Adash talk about the HP Gen 10 Plus service together with some of the highly performant devices like the the Intel Optane, what they call P5800, and even the Optane persistent memory. And of course, then after that, Chua came in to support them with the high performance, what they call benchmarking that he did with VMfleet. Of course, then Danny came in and then he started talking about how Azure Arc is a powerful single pane of glass, if you want, to manage Azure HCI, and Cole showed a demo to support that. So just to give you a bit of perspective, right? Around the same time, in around October, November last year, right, Microsoft also released the latest version of Windows Server, right? And together with Windows Server 2022, we also have Hyper-V 2022. So as you can see, with the latest version, the performance or the maximums of the solution has gone through the roof, if you want, from 24 terabytes, doubling that to 48, from 512 logical processor to 2048, right? And obviously from a virtual machine memory support, it's already gone through the roof back in 2016, 2019. So Microsoft didn't put in a lot more, right? It's not surprising, all right, since there are not many people have really actually hit that kind of requirement. And similarly from a virtual CPU perspective. But that said, if you look at the overall, right, this particular set of configurations is really hyperscaling anyone who needs it anytime, right? So they're ready to go. So that said, going from 2016, when we first released Storage Spaces Direct, S2D, as we call it, and then there was a rebranding in 2019, and then now 2022, the Azure HCI in the Windows Server Data Center Edition continues to be a very powerful set of offerings. So it's not surprising that these solutions have actually been recognized through these awards from 2019 through to 2020, and even in 2021, multiple awards from the storage review team, right, from an editor's perspective. And that said, right, there are actually two important flavors. For those of you who are new to Azure HCI, there is one that comes with Windows Server 2022, all right, and that particular flavor continues to be very powerful. That's why in the performance benchmark that Chua did, he actually performance benchmarked the Windows Server Data Center Edition version, as well as even the the Azure HCI OS version, right? And the current version to that is 21H2, right? So this is an important positioning, if you want. For those of you who come from the partner space, right, you have two offerings from Microsoft, right, to go to market. One that lives inside Windows Server 2022 Data Center Edition, and the other is a dedicated HCI OS called the Azure HCI 21H2 today, right? So that's important. And of course, Windows Admin Center, you've seen it being used by Cole and even Chua to show various aspects, even from a benchmark perspective, right? So these aspects, if you want, looking into how Microsoft is going ahead from a subscription-based perspective, right? It itself is really gone through multiple versions, if you want, right? So this is a cloud rhythm that you can expect to see, right, over the next few quarters. So we are currently sitting at 21H2. That's where I put the two hearts, and of course, in the next quarter or two, we will be seeing a 22H2. And that's where I believe that single node Azure HCI that Danny talked about will be featured, will be released. So these are the use cases for those of you who are new to Azure HCI. right? From Robo, the remote office, branch office, to VDI, through to even DR ready, all right, which is something that we're going to talk about very shortly, right? And many of you probably know that with the amount of disasters that we are seeing around the world, it's not surprising that with so many customers still with end of support operating systems like Windows Server 2.8 R2, with the cyber attacks intensifying, and even the extremes of disasters around the world, right? Especially around flooding and so forth that we have been seeing. So I want to take us through to the first set of demos, right? Before we jump into the what they call to the Kahoot quizzes, right? I'm going to pass you back to Chua, who's going to take us through a set of demos. And then, of course, right after that, I'm going to get Ko to show his Azure infused DR capabilities, right? And then we'll move on from there. So over to you, Chua. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. Can anyone see my slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
good. So I'm covering this topic, built-in disaster ready in the Azure Stack HCI. So disaster recovery in the Azure Stack HCI actually covering this kind of the scenario. Example, first one, within node failure, within the cluster failure or multiple cluster scenario, chassis failure, rack failure, and include this site failure as well. So let's take a look and understand what means by this within the node failure. So example, you have the Azure Stack 4 node Azure Stack HCI. If one of the disk fail, like this, what it show, this can categorize the within the node failure. And this included the storage disk failure, cache disk failure, and the hardware parts within the node. Okay, so everything within the node got some error, then that is actually part of the categorized within the node failure. So the built-in resiliency of the storage can actually survive the cluster. So just like example, this one of the disk fail, so it won't down the entire cluster. So what you need to do is just to replace the failure part, and it will resolve the problem. If it is the storage or cache disk, auto remediation will apply after you replace the failure disk. Yeah. So for the other scenario within the cluster failure, so example here, one of the entire node fail. So this is example, node failure. So you still can survive. The built-in resiliency can survive the cluster if you just like one of the node fail. So for the setup of the 4 node, maximum it can allow 2 node fail. So 2 node fail is still no problem. Okay, and what you need to do is just to replace the failure node, and it will solve the problem. Of course, the minor effort is needed in order to, when the time you do the replacement. But it's just a very easy step actually. So another scenario is the cluster failure. So example here, we have the 2 cluster. Each cluster is with the 4 node setup. So all of a sudden, one of the entire 4 nodes cluster number 1 fail. So this is categorized as the cluster failure. So at this scenario, what you need to do is you need to set up the VM replication or cluster set. So with this setup, actually will help you to survive. Okay, of course, you need to pre-set up this thing. It's not the post. So another thing is the chassis failure. So example of the chassis failure is the black server. So this is the example of the one chassis with 4 nodes. So this chassis failure is applied to the server like the HP H-Line EL8000. And for the chassis failures, it can be the power in the chassis failure, can be the network controller failure, top of the rack switch fail, or the backplane failure. These are categorized as a chassis failure. So example of the chassis for the EL8000. Okay, so it look like this one. Okay. So if you put into the rack, so it's a 5U, so high, it's a 5U, but you see this one 5U, you can actually place insert 2 chassis. Okay, so if for each node inside the chassis, it look like this one. You plug into the chassis. So example, you have the 3 chassis, and then one of the chassis fail. So you need to make sure that the VM can auto fill over to the other chassis. So this can be done by apply the chassis fault domain. And this also is the built-in features in the Azure Stack HCI. So another scenario is the rack failure. So this rack failure can be the rack power failure. Rack failure can cause it can be the top of the rack switch failure, or can be the network point which is plugged to the to that particular rack fail, or anything cause the entire node in the rack fail. So it's categorized as the rack failure. So in the case the rack number 1 fail, the VM inside will auto fail over to the remaining rack. So in order to do that, you need to apply the rack fault domain. And this also is the built-in capability in the Azure Stack HCI. Okay. So come to the last. So this is the site failure. So example site failure. So this is the map of the Peninsula Malaysia. So let's say you have the 3 data center. So the first is at the Penang, second is the Selangor, and the third is at Johor. So let's say out sudden data center in the Selangor fail, okay, due to flood. Then Johor also due to the flood, and then the only one surviving you is the Penang. So how you can do that? You need to leverage on this VM replica, storage replica, or this storage cluster function to help you. And all these functions also is the built-in inside this Azure Stack HCI. See how powerful is that? Come to the last one, okay, before I pass back to Noel. So this is a summary I talked about. So this is about the node server host. This is about the chassis, and this entire is the rack. And if the entire data center fail, is considered a site. Yeah. So this one picture can actually explain everything for you. Thank you. Pass back to you, Noel.
Thank you, Chua. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just wondering, for interest of time, Cole, you want to jump in? Yeah, with your demo?
Yes. Let me share the screen.
Sure. Thank you.
Right.
After that, we can do our quiz.
Yeah. Thanks, Chua, for the great sharing on the resiliency, especially on the disaster recovery, right? And in addition to that, I would like to share one of the very important area about the nested resiliency, where about how we actually can create the two-way mirror, right? In the cluster setup, right? 2 nodes cluster setup, and within the Azure Stack HCI, right? And nested resiliency volume can actually stay online and accessible even if 2 drives fail with 1 in each server at the same time, right? Or if a server goes down and a drive fail, right? So let me show you a demo recording that I created for you on how I create a nested two-way mirror volume, right, using Windows Admin Center, right? Right, so this is my this is the Windows Admin Center, where actually I use to manage my Azure Stack HCI cluster. Right, so as you can see here, I can just go directly into the volume extension, and here I will going to click on the create, and I will create a new volume. Right, let's name it as volume 2. All right, and or I can put a more meaningful name with nested two-way mirror. Right, and after that, the resiliency setting, I will choose nested two-way mirror, and I will also input the size that I need for the volume that I created. And on top of that, I can choose whether I create based on a gigabit or actually the TB, right? And after that, I will have some optional option for whether I'm go for the fixed provisioning or team provisioning, or even I can have an option to turn on the integrity checksum and as well as the encryption. Right? The integrity checksum is actually a feature like that validate and maintain the data integrity, right, using the checksum, right, to protect data against file corruption. Right? So this is one of the very good features that is actually built in here. Right? So
Cool.
yes.
Quick question here. The Azure HCI you are using at the moment for this demo is the Windows Server 2022 Data Center Edition.
Cluster 2. Yes. The OS that I'm currently using is Windows Server 2022. Yes. Yeah. Right.
Listen. Okay.
Right. So once the volume is created, so you can see at the Windows Admin Center inventory list here, it's actually created as a nested two-way volume. Right. So, and I can actually click on the newly created volume and have more detail about, for example, I can also turn on the data deduplication, right? Which is called data dedupe in short. And I can also turn on the encryption here with the BitLocker for data at rest. And I also can turn on the integrity checksum here, right? So that's all for me, for the nested resiliency with nested two-way mirror, right? Thank you. And over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you. So that takes us to let me bring up my quiz. Some changes I was making to it, somehow it didn't like what I did, so it's not allowing me to save it. Just give me a sec.
Wow.
Just adding some pictures and so forth, and maybe the pictures are too big.
Yeah, the size will be too big.
So let me just share my screen first. All right, so that takes us to the end of the two sets of demos. All right, the one that Chua did and the one that Ko did. Just bring up this. Come on, you can do it. That's okay. Let's do it. Okay, so in order to play this quiz, all right, because it's based on Kahoot, right? I need you to pull out your mobile phone, okay, and scan this QR code, and it will take you straight to the actual quiz itself, right? Can all of you see the screen?
Yes.
We just try and turn on the sound for you guys. Can you hear the sound? Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, everyone can play, all right, regardless. All right. You can say that being multiple choice, you don't have to be of any level, all right? You just press the button that you see on the screen, right? There are 4 colors. Just pick one of the colors. It's a good way to validate how much we've learned from the session, right? Of course, some of the questions I've tried to pull up based on probably a bigger set of sessions that we're covering, right? Apart from the one today, also from the previous session, all right, that we have done. But it's all aligned to this Azure HCI and all the different technologies we've been talking about for the past, right, few months, if you want, right? But trust me, it's not so difficult. I know it's just to inject some interaction and some fun into the session. Okay. So anyone else? There's only 8 people. That cannot be. All right. Awesome. Hey, Amar, thank you for joining. Anyone else? 1 more? 2 more? Oh, there should be at least 2 more. It's Danny there. Danny not playing?
I'm inside.
You are? You're playing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, who is
Am I
missing?
qualified to play?
Yeah, why not? It's just for some fun.
What's the price anyway?
No price. The price is relishing that you know your stuff, right? Your priceless knowledge.
Okay, so Gregor's in a call, right? So Gregor should sponsor something.
Did you join, Danny? Come on.
Yeah, I'm in.
You're in.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we got 10 people. All right, let's get started. Right. That's a nice number. So as mentioned, this is the second part. Okay. This might be a bit tricky. I'm just trying to be a bit cheeky here. I think most of you will get it. Yes, correct. The third generation Intel Xeon Scalable processor. All right. So the rest, if you want, some of them are already there for multiple generations of servers, like ILO5, for example. The operating system could be interchanged and so on. So the processor itself actually defines this Gen 10 Plus. All right. Congratulations, iPhone. What kind of memory can be used as cache in Azure HCI? It's a giveaway question. All right. Wow, we got 11 people. Wonderful. So it's called Intel Optane Persistent Memory. So that blue chip that you see in the picture just now, right? That's the second generation. All right. So what is the fastest storage devices used as cache that Azure HCI support? Wonderful. So the fastest is this. All right. Obviously, the second fastest is this Optane NVMe. Now, I call it NVMe because it actually uses the PCIe bus. All right. Although in the official text, you will see that it's called Intel Optane DC SSD. Right, but because it plugs into the PCIe, it's truly an NVMe. Right, so that's an important differentiator if you want, because SSD plugs into the SAS or SATA port. Okay. What is the current estimated highest Iops performance record for Azure HCI? Now, this might be something new to some of you, as you can see from the results. The fastest performance is actually 13.79 million for 12 nodes. And this was actually done in 2018-2019 timeframe. Right. In fact, the performance benchmark was showed publicly during Ignite in 2018 and 2019. Right. The Microsoft product team did this, but this was for 12 nodes. The one that Chua showed, as well as the one that was mentioned by Kendrick, that was for 2 nodes. Okay, so the difference, if you want, even with Intel Optane persistent memory back then, you could get millions of Iops, right, for a single cluster. Is Azure HCI able to support 2 fault domains in a 2-node configuration? Right, and Cole actually talked about that just now. So what do you think? Oh, I made a mistake in this one. This could be a reason why okay, so actually the answer is yes, but you don't need software assurance, by the way. Okay, because this is built into the nested resiliency that I talked about. I'm so sorry. This should be the answer, all right? But I know many of you picked up 4, right? So I'm so sorry I made a mistake with this question. So this is a question building on top of the previous question. Okay, what special resiliency does HP Azure HCI 2 nodes provide? Okay, very good. So it's called nested resiliency, and there are actually 2 ways to do it, right? So in the demo that Cole showed just now, you will have noticed there's a nested 2-way mirror and there's a nested mirror accelerated parity. So this is the answer, okay? Okay, Amar is leading. Congratulations. So why do you need this? Wonderful. So it's obvious, right? You want a system that can tolerate as many failures as possible. So in the case of the nested resiliency, all right, you can have one node go down and the remaining node can still have a drive failure, right? So that's the whole purpose, right? When you think about disaster ready, you need to think about how resilient the solution would be, right, to support that. So how does Azure HCI achieve true two-node cluster? Because this was one of the design wins, right, when the product was released back in 2019, and of course it's continued to get a lot of strong support, especially for the robo scenario, right? So we can use the USB witness or the Azure Cloud Witness so that we don't actually need a third server, all right, in order to achieve it. That's what they mean by a true two-node scenario. Are we going for time? I cannot see the time. Amazing. Okay. And by the way, this is built in. So we have the ability to combine three-way mirror and dual parity. It's called mirror accelerated parity. By the way, to do this, you need a 4-node cluster and bigger. Okay. Wow, Amar knows his stuff. So this in Windows Server 2022 data center. All right. Okay. So the answer is Hyper-V Replica and Storage Replica. By the way, the Windows Server 2022 data center HCI doesn't have stretch cluster. That one only comes in Azure Site HCI OS, and Azure Site Recovery is a feature that comes from Azure. Okay, so those are optional if you want, or not available out of the box. So we didn't get a chance to talk about Hyper-V Replica this time around, but it's truly something that's been around for a long time to help many of our SMB customers. So as a provider like us, right, many of us in this session, right, in order to support the customer, how many RPOs you think is supported, right? Recovery point objective. Okay, so there are 3. All right, you saw in the picture just now, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes. Okay, I'm glad most of you got it. All right, last question, true or false? Probably the easiest one. All right, so who got tricked? You don't have to pay extra, it's built in at no additional cost. All right, the winners are, third place goes to Kian, congratulations. And second place to Ko. And first place is? Wow, you still have your magic, my dear friend. Well done, well done. Thank you so much everyone for playing. All right, okay, I just got a little bit more and then we're done, okay? And I want to introduce someone special in the call as well. Okay, now some of you probably know that some of these pictures that I'm showing you belongs to a very special country in our region. Okay, anyone knows the name of the country? Put it down in the chat window. Right, I'd like to hear from you. Right, on the side you can see these massive cliffs, right? and all these houseboats and all that. Of course, the valley with the meandering river, and also you see the terraced hills, right, for paddy plantation and so forth. But this country is in Vietnam. Okay, specifically the city that I want to call out is a city called Hanoi. And why I'm calling out this city is because recently we had our Southeast Asia Games. All right, I'm sure some of you know that it was supposed to be held in 2021, but due to COVID-19, all right, they delayed it to this year. So that's the reason why. And when I captured this back in the 19th of May, that was the result at that point. So I don't know what was the final outcome of the games. If any of you know, let me know. I'm interested to keep up to date if you can. So the person I wanted to feature in this particular meeting is someone very special. Is one of our community members based out of Hanoi, right? His name is Long. Long, are you there? Is he still there? I should say.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah,
Yeah, everyone.
okay,
Yeah.
very good, very good. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in IT and so forth, because I'm really looking forward to bringing you in to help support more of our activities, right, from where you are. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks, Noya, for the introduction. Yeah, so probably you can see everything's like basically from my profile. Yeah, just different here is like yeah, I do have some of the experiences with the Microsoft technologies. Everyone know about iChange, AD, the failover cluster, the Azure Stack HCI kind of thing. The Azure Stack HCI is what I'm trying to explore further. So what I'm trying to say here is like the Azure Stack HCI is actually leveraged from the FCM. So the GUI is quite similar. So it will help us a lot in terms of like exploring this new technology. So along the way with my career path, I also doing something along the way because I was from SI as well. Yeah, so like what you are all doing, I'm doing some stuff like related to virtualization, not only Hyper-V, but also VMware, sometimes Nutanix. Yeah, also touch base on some of like, I'm keen on the storage things as well. So we do have some like storage performance with the BCDR solution, and of course in the very early like last couple of years, a lot of migration solution ongoing. So I was doing all those. Then there are some particular things about my end here. Is like I have a chance to work in a few different countries, not that many, but I have chance to be working in Malaysia and also Singapore. Then yeah, then now I'm working for one of the company in Vietnam as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so
thank you so much for your introduction. I think you're too humble, right? You know, when I talked to Long recently, and even over the last few years, I was always very amazed for someone who comes from a Vietnamese background but speaks such good English. Right? Because I have a lot of friends that I've met over the last couple of decades when I was traveling. I've not met anyone that spoke so well, right, coming from Vietnam. So knowing that he's been in Malaysia, he's also worked in Singapore, and now he's back in Vietnam excites me, because I think people from that part of the world deserves a lot of recognition in terms of their knowledge and their experience and so forth. So that's the reason why I felt that it was important for us to provide due recognition and appreciation, if you want, to that. So thank you so much for that, Long. I look forward to seeing you contribute to the community in future.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, very happy to be part of the team. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you so much for that. So that takes us pretty much to the end of our session for this time around. I don't want to drag this longer. So what I wanted to do was just to summarize what we have covered. Okay, so we started off by looking at the technology with the HPE Gen 10 Plus, especially around from a storage perspective, right, with the Intel Optane persistent memory, and of course, even the ones that Adesh talked about, which is the Optane SSD, which essentially are the NVMEs, all right, because it plugs into the PCIe bus. We also looked at the disaster recovery built-in capabilities that Chua talked about. as well as the one with the 2 nodes that Ko talked about. All right, those are important things that many customers need. All right, there's also enterprise reliability features. We have those demos all pre-created and so forth for you, but sadly, because of time, I decided to defer it for our next session, right, so that we don't delay. And there is also a demo on cluster set, right? Cluster set, if you want, essentially is clusters of clusters or federation of multiple clusters. We can go into thousands of nodes because of that. So that gives us the ability to hyperscale even further. All right, and in fact, when I was doing this planning together with Ko and Trob, this was part of the set of demos that we want to show. All right, but sadly, because of time, we decided we can't show it, and we didn't want to keep you longer this Friday night. Okay, so we actually had demos for scale up and scale out all ready for you. Okay, so that's it. All right, I wanted to highlight that there is a preview channel. For any of you are interested to play with the up and coming latest stuff that Danny talked about, join the preview channel. And of course, this is a list of some of the capabilities of the single node that Danny spoke about. Okay, so on this list, apart from here, stretch cluster support, all right, which a single node will definitely not give you, right? In fact, the multi-node scenario for stretch cluster starts with 4 nodes, 2 on each side. Okay, so that's the important thing to know. All right, so that's the only bit. And of course, there's a lot you can learn, continue to learn. So there is this study hall that I want to encourage you to connect with. All right, in fact, I learned this through someone called Thomas Mara, whom I adore. All right, so that we can continue to learn from these experts out there. And don't forget the Windows Server Catalog. Right, I get a lot of questions from various individuals over the course of the week, asking about what are the latest servers that are supported for Windows Server 2022 and so forth. This is the site, right? This is the place to look into. And of course, I got more resources for you. For those of you who are looking for in-depth knowledge on how to upgrade to 2022, because of the end of support for 2012 and 2012 R2 is coming next year, right? Don't wait until it goes past end of support. And the reason being is security. A lot of hackers take advantage of knowing that customers are really still using end of support technology. Okay. Okay, so don't worry. All right. With you having the knowledge that all this end of support is taking place, all right, you can guide the way, you can lead the way, right? And also go through some of these resources we have available for you for Azure ACI. Okay, so that's it. We have a couple of minutes for Q&A. Any questions, anyone? Don't be shy. You can unmute yourself. No?
So far, no.
I think everyone wants to leave for their weekend already. Okay, no worries. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. All right, I hope all of you learned something from this. And I think it's important for us to circle back. If you have questions, Ko, help me drop my email into the chat window. So if anyone needs to reach out, please feel free, right? There is no such thing as a stupid question, huh? Always remember. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. All right. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, Danny.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Adesh.
Have
Thanks,
a good
Henry.
weekend. Hi,
Hi,
Amma.
Amma.
Thanks for joining us.
Great session.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. God bless. Bye.